Tournaments have been a big part of Osu since the game's inception. Legendary moments and players have been made due to these tournaments, and Osu would not be the same game without this rich history. While these moments have been taking up all the attention, behind the scenes, the people running the show have become more and more corrupted. With an onslaught of controversies, biases, double standards, and overall lack of communication, this video is going over what has gone wrong with the Osu tournament scene. And before I continue, don't go out of the way to hate any of the players or entities mentioned in the video. This is all just to raise awareness of a big issue in the competitive Osu scene. The most recent and most important event that I want to talk about is the My Angel Kita Gacha Cup win. To summarize this whole situation pretty quickly, basically one player, My Angel Kita, played in a badged draft style tournament. They won with their team, however Kita, and only Kita, didn't receive a badge. What was the tournament committee's reasoning for this? Well, not having reasonably participated in the tournament. Oh man, do I have a lot to say about that. For starters, what do they even mean by reasonably participating? Well, it's never actually been specified anywhere when a player is being actively considered for badging or not. The rule is just up in the air for the committee to decide behind closed doors whenever they want. Well, let's break down Kita's performance to see if we can figure it out there. And to start this off, I just want to say they played at least one map in the tournament. That by itself, whether in match or in qualifiers, should be enough participation for a badge. Saying this will probably piss off the tournament elitist players that think badges should be earned by the amount of points you score for your team, which I think is completely false and not good for the future of the game. Back to Gacha Cup, where Kita not only played through a qualifiers map pool of 11 maps to get to the top 64 of over 100 players, they also played 3 maps in matches against the other teams, playing in both the finals and the grand finals pools. That's where the committee deemed this to be worthy of unbadging, since Kita only played 3 out of the 40 total maps in the matches. Now, this doesn't account for many things I'll go over later, but that's the general sentiment from the higher-ups. Now, in my opinion, even though the performance may not have been the greatest, that shouldn't disqualify them from a badge. Take a look at these local scores from Kita. Though this score that they set in match wasn't their best, doesn't mean that they weren't able to. And I mean, geez, I wish my teammates would play through the map pool in half the tournaments I played. And while yes, Kita did only play a few maps in the tournament, this kind of performance has never disqualified anyone from a badge or trophy outside of Osu as well. Even in sports practices that existed long before gaming, any player who participates in match or is a reserve player is deserving of the win with their team, not just the player who scores the most points or participates in the most games. And if you wanted examples that this hasn't happened before, there are other even more egregious performances that the players rightfully received a badge, though had low map participation in actual matches. For example, in Osu World Cup, where over 2021, 2023, and 2024, badge teams had players that played 6 out of 79 maps, 4 out of 63 maps, and 2 out of 64 maps respectively. These players earned their badges fair and square, actively playing with their teams in both team qualifiers and in the matches, having to earn their place on the roster. These players put years of work getting to this skill level, and already playing against the best of the best in their countries just to be on the team. Of course they shouldn't be unbadged. But I'm sorry, there's no way that these even more extreme examples from the most famous Osu tournament can just go under the radar, as they say. Let's also look at some reasons why having a low match play count can and will happen in many tournaments. While strategy and teamwork isn't overall too relevant when it comes to rhythm game tournaments, players can still contribute to the outcome of a match without scoring points. In Kita's case, it was practicing some more gimmicky maps that their team was worse at in the hopes of scoring a couple points. Though in other cases it could be a very strong low AR hidden player who is chosen just for that skill. This basically forces the opposing team to waste their ban on Hidden 2 or similar maps, which in turn would cause that player to lose out on maps played. Though this provides value to their team, allowing them more freedom of choice and locking the opposing team into fewer picks, all without scoring a single point in most cases. Players like these have a low play count in matches many times, yet never once had a badge revoked due to not reasonably participating, even if they flop on their own map pick. And this whole drama explained here has been because of a lack of communication and ambiguity in the rules, which has been a recurring issue for a while. The tournament committee's current communication channel is through email, and while it's possible to talk to some members individually, for larger problems such as Kita's case, email is pretty much the only way to appeal to the entire group and get an answer. This, paired with the fact they don't answer or check the email for extended periods of time, causes frustration and makes the player base feel alienated from this group. The host of Gacha Cup even reached out to the group for an appeal, and was basically left with this unprofessional response of, "That's our decision and that's final." So basically, no one in Gacha Cup even had an issue with it in the first place. Just one tournament committee member saw the low play count and decided that Kita was undeserving of the badge. Without any way to appeal or follow up in this situation, Kita's teammate had to take to Twitter to even get a voice out about this. And if this didn't gain any traction, most likely no one would even know about this problem. Which leads into my next point, that this isn't the only time that there's been a problem. There are plenty of other examples of controversies that have been building in the community for a while, many of which can be found on this document, which I'll link in the description below. I don't want to cover all of them in this video, as I think it would take too long, but if you're interested in this situation, I recommend you give it a look. These have been happening for years now, and it's growing more and more prevalent in the community. With there being a disconnect in the general player base, tournament elitist players, and the tournament committee, this dilemma has become all too common, and it needs to be fixed for the health of the game as a whole. This lack of badging and inability to communicate with the higher-ups, I believe has contributed to the overall tournament participation in the recent years. I mean, why would players want to dedicate multiple weekends playing the exact same maps against the same people just to have their badge stripped away at the last second without any chance of recovering it? What many people don't recognize is that in recent times, it takes multiple years to garner the skills needed to even participate in badge tournaments, sometimes even having to dedicate everything to one or two niche skill sets just to be a desirable player. Add this to the fact that the average lifespan of a player in their prime is only a couple years. It makes the ability to get badges in the first place very limited. While some people may say that badges should be reserved for the best in the community, what they don't realize is that basically anyone who's even in the running to get a badge is already one of the best players in that current era. I hope Kita does get the badge, even if many people don't believe so. Just for the principle that winning in a tournament gets a player something memorable and something that they can be proud of. Badges should be a reason that players want to join tournaments rather than a deterrent. Players not knowing whether or not they'll be getting a badge, or if the tournament will be stripped of a badge last second, makes being very competitive a risk rather than a reward. Overall, the community would benefit from fixing these vague rules put in place. And when they are necessary to enforce, the ability to appeal and communicate with the team should be easier, and more professional. Granted, the tournament committee is a volunteer team. They said they are working on being more available to fix situations like these, and I hope these statements are true, since this is the main reason all these altercations have happened. With all that being said, I hope the community believes in justice for Kita getting a badge. And as always, see you next time.